In this video, I'm going to talk about digital marketing for beginners. Now, I've built a software company to $1 million in annual recurring revenue, and I'm going to show you the different channels that I've tried. We're going to talk about each channel, like cold calling, cold email, content marketing, paid ads. And then by the end of this video, you're going to learn every single one and which one is best for you. And we'll go through the thought process on how to figure out which one might work for your business. So without further ado, let's jump right into this video. All right, so we'll start with content marketing. Content marketing channels include SEO, ASO, social media, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, you have podcasts, and you have newsletter. So these are typically the channels that will bring inbound customers to your landing page, to your services. And this is where you can create content, attract customers, and then convert those customers to people who actually front the bill and pay. So the goal is to create valuable content that speaks to your audience. If you're selling a sales tool, then you effectively want to talk about sales and everything that has to do with sales. If you create a marketing tool, you do the same thing. Everything and anything that is marketing, what are the problems that your customers are facing and how would you resolve those problems? And that's the content that you would provide. It's solutions to their problems within that specific niche. So the goal is to just throw things into the ether, throw things into the internet, and figure out what is valuable content and what is going to bring people to the door that effectively will close and effectively buy my product. The key here is if they find value in your content, by default, they're going to buy and they're going to try your product at the least. So just make sure that you provide content that speaks to your ideal customer, right? You want to solve their problems, valuable educational content that they can use and see you as an authority, and then go ahead and try your product, which would solve that problem for them. All right, so we'll start with what is SEO. So it's a mix of blog content, YouTube videos, backlinks. So what are the questions your ideal customers are asking and how can you answer them through blog content and video content? Then how can you make your website an authority through backlinks? So it's really broken into two parts. It's what is the valuable content that you're providing that allows Google to show you in the search results? And then do you have enough authority on your website for Google to say, you know what, a lot of people trust this website. Then in that case, let's test them out and put them on the search results. So SEO is a mix of great content. This can be like YouTube videos. This could be vlogs. This could be great landing pages. And then also is that vouched for by the internet? Like, are people providing backlinks directly to those pages saying that they do what they say they do? That is SEO in the most basic terms. ASO is actually identical to SEO. It's if you're doing SEO right, ChatGPT, Anthropic, Perplexity, all the other tools out there are going to reference your website because it already checks all the boxes for search engine optimization. So there's not really anything you do different for ASO. It's really just an added benefit to SEO. Now, what is a backlink, you might ask? So again, a backlink is when one website refers back to your website. It's like a vote of confidence, right? So Google thinks, 200 other websites are vouching for Wave, which is a digital business card. Then Wave must be the best digital business cards because there's so many people saying it is the best or is a digital business card. And then Google will say, great, let's test that assumption. Let's put them on the search results and see if they can back up that claim. And they have their own way of figuring out through click-through rates, time on page, if it is what they say it is. So how do you get backlinks? The first way is to outreach the top 10 SERP results. So you search up your keyword on Google, you'll probably see like the best articles. You click on them, you outreach the author, say, hey, we provide a sales tool. We'd love to be part of this article. What would it take to have our name listed here? And you would do that for every single keyword that you think your customers are searching to find a product like yours. And you would just outreach to the authors and say, hey, we'd like to be part of this blog. We'd like to be part of this blog. We'd like to be part of this blog. And then effectively, you'll be part of like 20 of them. And Google will now know, oh, this guy provides X. So whenever somebody searches up X, we're going to show them on the search. So that's the first way. The second way is to reach out to bloggers and journalists within the same niche and tell them to create content for you. So create a guest post about a tool and how it helps salespeople close more deals, right? And they would go ahead and create a guest post on their page and then add a link that directs back to your website. So that's the second way. And the third way is very similar to the first way. Instead of looking at the top 10 results, just search up like best XYZ or how to XYZ articles. So what are some of the things that your customers would be searching for? In our case, we provide digital business cards. So somebody would search up like how to capture leads at events, how to share my contact information via email signature, how to create an email signature, how to create a digital business card, how to share contact information on iPhone. So these are how-to articles that we can capture the intent where our value makes sense. So somebody searching out those how-to articles can say, oh, wow, here's a solution that actually fixes that exact how-to problem. right? So those are other ways to think about it. I'll show you an example of Wave and how SEO has helped us. So here are the backlinks, right? These are the referring domains, also known as backlinks. We have 942 other websites who are referring to us. And that's allowed us to generate 35,000 visitors per month on our website organically. And we rank for 1,800 keywords, like best this, best that, how to this. These are all ranking. And 600 of those keywords are actually ranking top 3 on the search results. Now, what you'll see is the correlation here of backlinks to traffic. Backlinks is the blue, traffic is the orange. So you'll see that great content, as you consistently post content and you consistently get more backlinks, your traffic just goes up. And that's really the formula for SEO. It's create great content that people in your niche actually care about, and then figure out a way to get backlinks. I used to do all this manually. Now we have an agency, but these 3 steps over here, how to get backlinks, is key. So this is what you're looking for. I'll give you an example. So right now, which is this keyword over here, has a ton of traffic, best digital business card. And you can see that Wave ranking first on AI overviews. There's nothing we really did differently on AI. We just created an amazing blog that talks about the best digital business cards. And you can see here that our blog generates 21,000 visits every single month. And this helps us obviously acquire new customers. And to do this was very simple, right? It's create great blogs, consistently create great blogs, and consistently get great backlinks from people within our niche. And eventually you start ranking first. So that's how you use SEO to generate traffic, new leads, and user signups. Now, the other way to do content marketing, and remember, content marketing is like a mix of all things. You need to do SEO, you need to do social media, you should do podcasts, you should do newsletters, you should do everything. It's not one silo, right? It's just a mix of everything, creates like an amazing structure. So social media is pretty much self-explanatory. This is one of like the most basic ways for you to do any digital marketing. These could be like mini series, this could be like entertainment content, this could be value or educational content, and you're really trying to answer like the burning questions for your ideal customer. The best strategy I found to do content instead of just sitting there and trying to create like short form content is to repurpose the content into social media. So if you're generating a blog, for example, create a short video explaining the key concept of that blog and summarize it and then post it. Another thing could be like clipping a long form YouTube, like I'm doing right now. I create a long form YouTube video and then I cut the pieces that I think make sense and then I post them on short form. So those are easy ways where you can structure long form or blogs and then turn those into short form. So you have infinite content ideas and you can break them down every single day. Now, podcast is another one. So this is where you need like thought leadership. B2B SaaS is a good example. If you're selling like products to enterprise, getting podcasts, guests, and creating a podcast is important. This is where it could work for you. The great thing about podcasts is that you can leverage guests' audiences, right? Because when you get a guest, and the guest is part of your niche, right? You're doing sales content, you get a sales guy on the podcast, you post the podcast, they repost, they engage, that is shown to their followers, and their followers who effectively like sales are following them for sales, now have you there who also has sales content. So you want to create the podcast, find guests in your niche, and then post content about that topic. And by default, people will learn about you. It's kind of like overreaching your hand and grabbing somebody else's audience, or having the opportunity to speak to that person's audience by giving that guest value to showcase what they do, right? And you're giving them content, you're giving them a platform to speak about what they do. And in return, if their audience is interested in you, then they'll go ahead and follow you and learn more about what you do. So podcast is a great one. It does take a lot of work. You have to be super consistent, but how to start is pretty straightforward. You reach out to people in your niche who have the same audience as you. You request them to participate in your podcast episode. You do research and ask great questions. So the next time you outreach, people will see that podcast and be like, oh, wow, this was great. Maybe I want to be on that podcast. But if your questions are not so great and you don't do your research, you might not get enough guests, right? Or the guests that you want. Create a Riverside account to record and post the podcast. It's just a tool that allows you to record easily and post on all channels. Clip the podcast using Opus Clip to post short form content across the board, and then stay consistent. So this is how to start a podcast. And then lastly, you have a newsletter. So creating a newsletter allows you to send valuable content directly to your ideal customer's inbox, which is obviously super important. It builds trust and it gives you the opportunity to sell your product after you've provided a bunch of value. Now, this in isolation doesn't typically work. This, with everything else and a product to sell, is what you're looking for. So the typical flow is you'll have a pop-up on your website that provides visitors access to your newsletter. They can just simply put their email address there and then join that newsletter. Or you can have a link in bio, or a link in bio on your social media. So as you start posting valuable content on social, if they want more in-depth detail, they can join the newsletter. So adding it to your website, adding it to social, to funnel people into your newsletter. And then the newsletter will work really well coupled with different channels. And it provides additional value to your customer, more in-depth value. And if they like that value, it gives you the opportunity also, like 1 in 4 posts or 1 in 8 posts, to talk about your product, talk about your progress, and see if that makes sense for your audience. So that's typically how it works when it comes to content marketing. It really is 4 channels. Well, those are the 4 that I like the most: is SEO, which will get you AI search by default. There's social media, podcasts, and newsletters. So the next one is cold call and cold email. And you might be asking yourself, like, how do I cold call and cold email? How do I get started? Well, first, you got to understand your customer really well and understand the decision maker, because you have to know who to target. The second thing is you need to create a list of prospects. So you can use Apollo or Lucia to do that. Apollo for emails, Lucia for phone numbers. And then lastly, you just need to call them and email them. So I'll put an asterisk here on email because there's a lot of issues with deliverability and infrastructure that might need a lot of experience or a lot of work to do. So we'll talk about that shortly. But effectively, this is kind of how you get started. Understand your customer, create a list of prospects, call them and email them. Now, so here's what's important to know with cold email. It isn't as easy as it used to be. And Google has really made a lot of changes when it comes to cold outreach. So here's what Google's been doing. First, mass suspension. They've been suspending workspace accounts connected to cold email software, sometimes disabling entire domains. So you want to be very careful how you do this, who you target, how much emails you're sending, because the last thing you want is Google to ban your domain, and then you're pretty much undiscoverable on the internet. So there's a lot of risk here when doing cold email. So it's very, very important to do it well. Suspension triggers often appear to be triggered by CNAME records or app IDs that connect to a domain. What you really have to understand here is that it is hard to do cold email right. And if you do it wrong, the consequences are massive, right? There's severe consequences from Google now that can just stop your business altogether. And once you're blacklisted by Google, it's extremely hard, if not impossible, to get removed from the blacklist. So how to adapt? Diversify your sending. So don't rely on just one platform. Follow best practices. Don't just blast hundreds of thousands of emails. Be compliant with CAN-SPAM Act. If you don't know what the CAN-SPAM Act is, it's a US law that pretty much sets rules on commercial emails, giving recipients the right to stop emails from being sent to them, i.e. unsubscribe me from these emails. So there's a lot of things you have to consider, while at the same time, a lot of things you have to do right to not be blacklisted or shut down by Google. With that said, that's why I would not do cold emails and I would focus on calls instead. So if you are going to choose one of the two, do cold calls. And if you want to do emails, don't do cold emails, do warm emails, turn those prospects into conversions. Now, the last channel I want to talk about is paid ads. So it's not really for everyone, especially if you're trying to get started. You have no capital, you don't know your customers well enough, and you probably need time to learn more about your own business and the people who use your product or service. So the paid ads process is straightforward. You choose a platform or multiple platforms like Meta, Google, etc. You create content variations, so different creatives. You test the content creation and those creatives by pushing ads through those platforms. And the ones that do well, you promote the great ones. And then after that, you restart the process to create new content variations once those creatives become stale. So you choose the platform, create content variations, test them, boost the ones that work, restart, build more creatives. In short, that's how paid ads work. So make sure the math makes sense. You don't want to just throw ads there and like hope for the best. And we're going to get a bit technical here, but I find this very important because this is how you calculate if it makes sense to run ads or if you should continue doing ads. So if your lifetime value is greater than your cost of acquiring a customer, you can scale, meaning the value you're getting from somebody is greater than the cost that you're paying to get that person through the door. If I make $100, but it costs me $10 to get that customer, then that's a 10x return. I'm going to go for it. If the LTV is greater than 3, then you can scale aggressively. If the LTV is less than the cost of acquiring a customer, you're burning cash. If you're paying $1,000 to acquire somebody who's going to pay you $500 and is worth $500, then you're putting 1,000, you're losing 500. It doesn't make any sense. So your LTV always has to be greater than your cost of acquiring a customer. Now, the sweet spot, the ratio is greater or equal to 3. That's where you can start scaling aggressively and pouring money into this machine, this money printing machine, which is paid ads. So definitions, we've gone through them. CAC, which is how much does it cost to acquire one customer. AOV, or first purchase value, how much do you earn back instantly from acquiring that customer? What's your payback window? How long until you recover your customer acquisition cost? And LTV is how much total money do you earn from that customer over time? Now, a quick mental example. If you pay $80 to acquire a customer, that's your customer acquisition cost. They pay you $60 at sign up. So you're losing money up front. And over the next 12 months, they pay you $200 more. So your lifetime value of that customer was the 60 plus the 200. So the LTV was 260. Now you paid 260, right? Paid 260. It costs you $80 to acquire a customer. Your LTV to CAC ratio is 3.25. So it's scalable. You're making 3.25 times your money by acquiring those customers. Now, initially, you're minus $20 cash on day one because you're paying 80, you're getting 60, so you're minus 20 on day one. So what this effectively means is that you need runway to balance out the difference, because that paid channel makes sense. You're bringing 60 initially, but over the course of, let's say, 12 months, they add another $200 in payments, and that's the LTV of your customer. But right now you're minus 20. So you need cash in the bank to, pay off that deficit. So the ratio is good, but the cash flow could choke you. So that's kind of how you think about LTV to CAC. Now, the simplest checklist to know if ads are worth it for you is ask this simple question. Do I make money back immediately or within 30 to 90 days? Do I have a predictable LTV? It's not guessed, but it's measured. You know exactly what your lifetime value of your customer is. Is my LTV at least 3 times my CAC? If that's the case, I can scale aggressively. Can I spend without CAC rising too fast? As you continue to pay for ads, the ads cost increases. So can you scale and spend without CAC rising too fast? Is going to be an important question to ask yourself. Now we're going to go through what's best for you, and we'll figure out the right channel, which depends on 3 things. So you'll figure out whether content marketing is right for you, paid ads, or cold call or cold email. So once you plug in the variables, it'll be very clear. So first, you got to understand how fast do you need results, how much money can you spend, and how much time can you invest, right? So how fast you need results is determined by speed, which is how fast do I need the cash? How fast do I want to generate the revenue? Do I have time to wait? Can I build consistently instead of trying to rush for cash next month? How much money can you spend, which is the cost of the channel, and how much time can you invest, which is the effort needed on your part to make that channel work? So paid ads, the speed is fast. Once it starts working, cash comes in. You can see that immediately. The cost is extremely high. It's one of the most expensive channels, and the effort is medium. You need pipeline now, and you have cash. Cold email, medium to fast. The cost is low to moderate. Your effort is extremely high. You have to have clear targeting and strong message. If you really know who to target, you have strong messaging, cold email can work for you. Cold calls, fast signals, but low leverage. So you can pick up the phone, get on a demo, close a sale, but the problem is it's not really scalable, and you're going to have to keep getting more business development reps to do more cold calls once you get that system running. So low leverage, hard to scale, but the signals are pretty fast. The cost is very low. Just pick up the phone, get a list, and the effort obviously is very high. If you've done cold calls before, you know exactly why this is very high. It's grueling, it's demotivating, and you're out there just calling people day in, day out. The ratios are horrible, but sometimes if you're good, it works really well. So you need quick feedback, and you know your ICP quite well. You know the problem. Like when you call them, you know exactly what to say. You have a good script, and the problem that you're tackling, your solution is just like no brainer. And content marketing, the speed is slow, but it compounds. SEO content, that's evergreen content. It stays there forever. So the speed to revenue is quite low, but again, it compounds over time. So the cost is pretty low. It's not expensive to build a blog or to record content. However, the effort is very high. It does take a lot of time to record. It does take a lot of time to write the blogs. It does take a lot of time to be out there and create podcasts, create newsletters, and you have to stay very consistent. So if you want to win the long term and reduce your customer acquisition cost, I always say go for content market. So this is when it's best to do those channels and just figure out where you fall within this simple mental model. What you need to ask yourself is, how quickly do I need revenue? Do I have more time or more money? Where does my customer hang out? Can I write something people actually care about? Do I know how to create content? Can I write scripts? Can I write blogs? Can I speak to the camera, fluidly? So here's how to think about it. If you need revenue quickly, right, do outbound. So start doing cold calls, cold emails, or paid ads, because you need money now, right? You don't want to waste 3, 6, 12 months to build content, build SEO, create a personal brand. You need revenue quickly, and you need it now. So do you have money but no time? Then paid ads, because you have money to spare and you need the cash quick. Have time but not money? Well, cold email, cold calls, and content. Is your ICP easy to target? If yes, outbound is strong, meaning cold calls and cold emails can be really good. Paid ads can be really good. If your ICP is not easy to target, and again, ICP is your ideal customer, then content plus ads to attract demand, right? You put content out in the ether, and then your ideal customer, which you can't really target well, you don't know who to call, but they're looking for answers, they will find you. And do you want to compound returns? Obviously, yes, everybody wants to compound returns. So you create content. And if you don't want to compound returns, which I don't know why you would want that, you do outbounds or ads for immediate wins. So it really depends on your situation, right? If you need money now, paid ads and outbound can be great. If you have money but no time, paid ads. If you have time but no money, then cold calls and content. If your ICP isn't easy to target, then you want to do more content. And if your ICP is easy to target, then you can do cold calls and cold emails because you know where to find them. And if you want to compound your returns and you have the time for that, you do content. If you don't really have the time for that and you want immediate wins, you do outbound or ad. So hopefully this was helpful to help you decide which channel works best for you. And I'll give you some examples here before we just cut it off. If you sell B2B SaaS to HR directors, you know the job title, outbound and LinkedIn works really well. If you sell consumer products like skincare, it's kind of harder to target outbound. You can't really cold call or cold email people. Then ads and influencers would win. You can sell expertise or personal branding products. Then content and long-term demand is king. If you're doing a service-based business, I would definitely recommend this portion. And if you need revenue this month, ads and outbound, do not do SEO because SEO takes time to build. So these are some quick examples. Hopefully this video was informative and you were able to figure out what channel you'd like to use to do some digital marketing. So thanks again for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you want to look at the other videos, should be here or here. I talk about sales and marketing. Yeah, good luck out there.